In this episode of Nerdy Romantics Podcast, we're continuing our discussion of Star Trek Discovery Season 5, or the final season of Star Trek Discovery. We're going to continue talking about Culber and his shared body experience after the Trill Jantara. We'll get into a little bit of the other characters and their changes, as well as talk about found family. We can't leave without talking about Easter eggs and romance tropes. Who knew? And we have to mention the library from episode 8. Then we'll end the discussion with some memorable quotes, and we're also going to give this one a Goodreads rating. I bet you can probably imagine what it is. So stay tuned. This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson.
Right. So, and then he had the shared body experience, and that was part of him. And so his question about how much of that changed him and who he became as a result of that. And then in the scene with the progenitor, the way that it's explained, because Mole wants to use the progenitor. I guess we're just doing all the spoilers, but
Yes.
Mole wants the progenitor to, that's just how we are, to bring Locke back to life, right? She wants him to be alive again. And the progenitor talks about how, they can, the cells are, they can essentially, they're making a clone. They would be able to make a clone of him, but all the memories are gone.
Right.
The memories that made him who he is and the person that she loves, those are going to be gone. That's what happens when someone has passed. So those memories are gone. And so even though she could get, right, the same look, right, you get the same look and person, but because of the loss of the memories, they are not the person that you loved.
Right.
And I love how Culber sort of comes to the conclusion that the experience that he had is just a piece of him and a part of him, and it doesn't have to have parameters. It doesn't have to have explanation. He can sit with the wonder, with the not like in terms of wonder like questions, but wonder of, oh, this is neat. Okay, let's just see what happens here, and just the wonderment of the universe that he has about how it changed him, and he doesn't have to have an answer today. That's what I mean by, I just feel like he'd be such a good, like a good friend to have, because we all have to remember that a lot of times we're going to go through something and we're going to have an experience, positive or negative or neutral or what have you, but we are not going to immediately be able to classify what that experience means to us or how that experience changed us. Right. And so those experiences that we have are going to reveal themselves to us over time. And there's a beautiful little thing about memory. The memory will reveal itself when it's needed, and that's what happens with him and Book in the little shuttle thing. Right? There was something he needed, and he was able, because of his experience, he was able to have the information that they needed.
Right.
And how wonderful that was. So like I said, we don't know how experiences are going to impact us later, or we can't necessarily assign meaning to them. We just sort of have to accept that experiences happened, and we're going to go forward and strive to be a better person tomorrow. Right. That's all we got. Right.
Yeah, and if we could plan out those experiences, life would be kind of boring. Where do we learn? Where do we grow?
Yeah.
We
and
can't.
I think that's part of the whole thing with the time travel, right? Is that we can is that you want to keep the past, because if you change something in the past, right, then the future doesn't become the
Right.
future isn't the future anymore, right? You get a different
Exactly.
future as a result.
Yeah.
There's the path not taken, and you'll never know where that path might have taken you.
Right.
Not, it doesn't mean good or it doesn't mean bad. It's not that. It's just that that's no longer your path.
Yeah.
And and recognizing that there's value in where you are.
Exactly. But yeah, so there's a there are there are a lot of changes in individuals, but I think too with this particular series, there's a lot of them growing together as a family that we
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
And I love how that kind of manifests or kind of, and especially in that last episode where we, kind of all see them come together, and then we see
Yeah.
Michael's family, like actual nuclear family, happen and things
Yeah.
like that. It just shows that they're a bit unique based on not
Mhm.
just shared experience like maybe a TNG or a Voyager, they
Mhm.
have shared
Mhm.
experience, but also that they actually, a lot of them grew up together, right? As
Yes.
far as, they became the people who they are in season 5 because they were not these people in season 1, you know.
That's what I really love to see, and that was not all television shows make that choice
Yeah.
to allow their characters to grow into a different person,
Right.
right?
So many of them, they do it. And,
Yeah.
and it's like they grow into different people, but they're also people that we recognize,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? You,
Yeah.
you know?
There's much more of that interpersonal growth and interpersonal relationships. And all pretty much all of the Star Treks are found family, right? We find ourselves on a starship or on a space station, or we find our, like, we're sort of all forced together. But I think you're right in that this one takes it a few steps further, because the partners become part of the family as well. And
Mm-hmm.
there's not nearly as
Yeah.
much partnering that happens in some of the other series, where we have
Right.
Saru. We get a wedding for Saru. We have
Yes.
Culber and Stamets, who are in a healthy relationship together.
And
We didn't even talk about, what's her name?
Tarina with
Tarina.
Saru?
So
Yes.
yeah, Saru and Tarina. We didn't even talk about, like, how their relationship is also built on respect and on trust and on love, and it looks so different than the other relationships in the series,
Yes.
but is but it is one that has those same elements to it, and is such a beautiful partnership. We've seen so many of these other, like, partners come into the story and be important and find their own place within the found family.
You're totally, you know what? You're totally right about that. And as I'm thinking about this, as you're saying this, you're right about the other Star Treks. It doesn't
Mhm.
happen like that. When we, aside from Tasha Yar, leaving
Mhm.
in the way that she does,
Mhm.
TNG, the core of TNG, who we see in the very beginning, is the same core of people that we see at the end around the poker table.
Mhm.
And it's still the same core of people that we see in Star Trek Picard, to be
Yeah.
honest. But
Yeah.
here we see people who are maybe not, in that headline guest star, role, but they're, coming in and maybe recurring, but they are just as important. And they become the characters that we want to see, like the Tarina and Saru partnership. I was saying to you
Mhm.
before we started that is one of the most equitable
Yeah,
relationships that I have ever seen on
yeah,
TV. Like
yeah,
there's no necessarily roles there, or there are a bunch of roles that make them who they are. But to me, it's
yeah,
Tarina being who she is and Saru being who he is, and
yeah.
them realizing that they have this wonderful connection and
Mhm.
like being in each other's space.
Yeah. The connection that they have with each other, they fit together like Legos, you know?
Yes.
They're like, there's like this complementary where they're not the same. There's for other, in other couples, you see there's a sameness,
Mhm.
that you between the folks. There's the compassion that we see in Culber is is mirrored in Stamets,
Yeah,
right? It's not
exactly.
exactly the same, but there's a mirror there where you
Yes.
see the two of them strong in similar ways. And for Michael and Book, we see them as they're both very smart, very strategic, very brave, very willing to jump into the fight.
Mhm.
They're going to lead the charge. They're both like that. And that's both a wonderful thing to see, and it also is the source of some of the problems that they have.
Right. Yes.
Where for Saru and to
Tarina.
Serena, thank you. I don't know why that's not in my head. I don't have the right page open on my notes. That's the problem. But for Saru and Tarina, we see them. She's not similar to him in that way.
Right.
You know, she is complementary to him in a
Yes.
whole different way
Yes.
than
They
we
com
see the other
yes,
couples.
they
Yeah.
complement each other very well. Like
Yeah.
they complement each other so amazingly well that the few little issues that they have, like she wanted to announce their engagement and he's like, well, I don't know, we should do that, blah 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 and all that kind of stuff. The
Yeah.
few little things that they have, they talk through it and they reach an agreement. It's like
Yeah.
this is the stuff that they kind of teach you about in marriage counseling. You see it. This is
Yes,
like the
right?
perfect example of, what they teach you in marriage counseling.
They're both really strong communicators.
Yes.
And she is, sort of communicating with her logic, and he communicates with his heart, but it's all about the communication between
Hmm.
them.
And
Yeah.
and it's funny because it's not funny, but it's also really cool that they're amazing communicators, but they are also amazing when they are just together in silence. Because
Mhm.
they do
Oh,
several
they're so
meditation
comfortable together.
not episodes, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just
it's so beautiful to see to see them together.
it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
like, that's kind of, well, I shouldn't say that. That's not what everybody wants, right? But
Yeah.
to me, somebody that you can be for me, somebody that you can be comfortable being silent around is a
Mhm.
gem. You
Yeah.
don't have to talk around them. You're just comfortable
Yeah.
in silence.
To
That's
be
amazing.
comfortable. Yeah. That comfort is, yeah, that's something to seek out, is to find comfort in the people that you surround yourself with. And it looks different for a lot of different people, but for them, that silence is one of the is definitely a because there's no tension.
Yeah.
You can see how peaceful that silence is for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And silence isn't peaceful for everyone.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
It's not peaceful for
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
And the ways that they are different, that's something that they are. That's a way that they are the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of getting back to also what you were saying about found family and also connecting that with, TNG episodes, to see Stamets and Culber, who are already married, end up with a family, with
Yeah.
Adira and sort of adopting them, right?
Uh-huh. Hmm.
It it's just you don't see that on a lot of. In fact, going back to TNG, Picard hated his children. He didn't hate children, but he was uncomfortable around children.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but he finds out, but we all know he's is comfortable around kids, as we see from
Mhm.
different episodes, right? But
Yeah.
you only see little snippets of family in
Mhm.
different areas, like, on Voyager, there's a birth on, well, there are a couple of births on Voyager, but in the beginning, there's a birth on Voyager, but, her mom is there on Voyager, but her dad is back, in the Alpha
Mhm.
Quadrant. And then, of course, at the end of Voyager, we see a birth there, but we don't know how that family's going to turn out. But we see a lot of
Mhm.
broken families in Voyager, I guess. In TNG, there's Alexander and Worf, and of course that carries over to DS9. Of course, that
Mhm.
relationship that
Mhm.
goes on there, and we don't see a lot of coming together as a family. And then there's this whole thing
Mhm.
about being on the starship and being in Starfleet, and family is not
Yeah.
necessarily encouraged, or
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
but they're okay with family, even more so than maybe other races
I
on
mean, you
these.
sort of have the Riker Diana um,
Yeah.
relationship, but even that relationship is not really played as like a relationship dynamic. It's sort of a, oh, these guys have eyes for each other, off camera
They
almost.
have eyes for each other. They have history, and then of course in Picard we see that they come together, but then they got problems in Picard.
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
that happens,
Yeah.
so I think here in Discovery, with the whole theme of found family,
Mhm.
is big, and it's positive in a way that it's not in any of the other series so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah. You bring there's much more family and relationship baggage that comes into
Yes.
the forefront of the story.
Yes.
You
Right.
know, there's
Exactly.
I mean, early on, we see Michael dealing with her mom too, and
Yes.
that's like a
Uh,
real key theme through the series. So, yeah, so there's all these different ways of how people work, and that's also one of the things I really like about Star Trek as a universe is that they can use these different shows to explore different types of things, right?
mhm.
There's TNG, I feel like, has an undercurrent of exploring humanity through data and the questions that data asks, and what it means to be, in terms of what it means to be human, in terms of what it means to be, to be able to explore and bring something else to the world and to the galaxy. Where in Discovery, we have there's so many different, every season is different,
Yeah.
and there's something I really love about that, and I love that they did so many different kinds of adventures.
Mhm.
In this, we have a time travel one, we have a desert planet one, we
Right.
have running through the trees, in search of water one, we have, there's these,
Mhm.
we have the big science question ones. So we have all these different kinds of things that we can explore through Discovery, that always at the baseline comes back to the question about relationships and who you are, and what are the choices that you make, in a way that's different than the way that the other Star Trek shows play out.
Mhm. Exactly. And
Hmm.
and not just who you are, but who you want to go through these things with,
Yeah, who do you want
right?
around you? Yeah.
You know, it's about that as well, which goes back to found family, goes back to people kind of discovering who they are. But yeah, we're talking real deep about this one.
I know.
So let's shift the gear and talk about some fun stuff. But before we leave the deep, it is deep. But I also feel I did want to echo and to agree with what you said about Star Trek universe. It
Mhm.
every I mean, maybe aside from Lower Decks, but even with some in Lower Decks, but Lower Decks is just a fun time around. But with every series in the Star Trek universe, they are exploring a deep issue of what it means to be to live in this world, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
be human, even though they're not human, a lot of
Yeah.
them, right? But to
Their
be
humanity.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
exploring their humanity.
And and exploring the issues of basically what we deal with today as people.
Yeah.
A lot of that is echoed in here, and it's just amazing how you can go back and you can be like, wow, this episode of whatever the series is, this was on 20 years ago, and we're dealing with this right now. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So much you can learn about yourself from Star Trek and from, humanity as a whole. But to go to some of the fun things, and because this is not just nerdy, but this is also nerdy romantics.
Heck yeah.
I know Jen, our romance connoisseur, I know she picked out some tropes,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I want to know what they are because I was watching this as a nerdy person, except for Michael Booker. I'm not gonna lie. I was like,
Okay.
romance tropes, please do tell.
Okay, well, let's talk about Michael and Booker, right? We have second chance romance.
Yes.
Obviously, right? They were in a relationship, they were not in a relationship, they're back together, they're not back together. Like we've got a few different iterations of them and figuring out, okay, is this what it is, right? We've got I love the couples in love against all odds, right?
Yeah.
All the different things that pull them apart. We have the I can't stop giggling. Okay, in the time travel episode, they're bouncing kind of all around, and she has to go
Yes.
to her cabin and grab something without being seen. And then Booker comes in after a
Yes.
workout,
Yes.
and at that point in time, they are a couple
Yeah.
that shares a bedroom. And so he is there and is like, he's ready to go take a shower. And it's not about the sexy times, except that he does take off his shirt. And now she has to have a conversation with him as the person that he is in love with.
Right.
And she is very distracted, and it's clear. You can see it like
Yes.
with a marquee across her forehead. Why did we break up? Hold on.
Right. It's like, why did I
I
leave
I am
him?
missing
What's
out
going on?
on this, and
Yes.
this could be a part of my life. And what was I think I can't remember why, but they have a really wonderful, exchange. And like most couples in a committed relationship, as she is leaving to go do the things she has to do, she has 4.5 minutes to get there, and he says, I love you, and she has to pause and say, I love you too.
Right.
And what that, what it means for her to have to say that. So we've got like a few minutes of a fake relationship on her side.
Yes. Yeah.
So we love that. We did not broach the subject at all, but Locke is secretly a prince.
Right.
Locke is a prince.
I know.
Locke is a prince.
I know.
Locke is a secret prince.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
And and in a lot of the dark romance novels, one of the things that we see in terms of how the couple sort of comes together is a lot of times the man has it's usually the male character who has this sort of attitude, I will do anything to save the
Mm-hmm.
love of my life.
Yeah.
And here we have Maul is going to do anything, partner with anybody, you know, double cross the entire universe in order to save the person that she loves. And we love commitment, right? We
Yeah.
love when there is a commitment to
She's very
uh
much a alpha heroine in that.
she's the alpha there. And I don't know, something about Locke is just a little bit more, he's he's much more low key, and she is, she's the one that's like the aggressive, excuse me, the aggressive person.
But
So
I
she's just,
think part of that is because he is hiding that he's a prince and because he's locked into a certain role.
yeah,
And
yeah,
she's like, I'm in love with you. We're in love. You got
mm-hmm,
to get out of this role. So part
mm-hmm,
of that is he needs to evolve and change, and he
mm-hmm,
is having trouble doing that. Whereas our
yeah,
Discovery crew, they evolve and change, but he's
yeah.
having a problem doing that. And part of it is because he is a prince. I mean, it's kind of hard to, I mean,
And he wants to escape, right? He's
yeah.
a reluctant prince.
Yeah,
He's the reluctant prince, and
exactly, exactly.
he doesn't
Even
want
want to
to wear the
take the
crown,
throne
as it were.
after this. He doesn't want to take the throne. He doesn't. Yeah,
No.
he
Why
doesn't
would
want to be
he?
the successor.
Yeah,
He just
he's
wants to go
he has
away.
a lot of disagreements with the way that world is run, and he doesn't want to be a part of it. So,
Yeah.
you know, we have that. We have, and I also just liked it's not completely a marriage in trouble, but we have kind of a marriage in trouble with the Stamets and Culber, because Culber is questioning sort of who he
Mm-hmm.
is and what's going on with him,
Yeah.
and wonders if this changes their ability to be in a relationship together.
Yeah.
He has some very serious questions and isn't quite sure how he doesn't know what the answers are. And that's why I really, really appreciate that as he kind of figures things out, that it's okay to not have the answers. And Book and Michael kind of do the same thing. They just sort of they're next to the river, or like they've kind of wandered off from the wedding, and they are sort of like, well, I don't know what the future holds. I don't, I can't. Well, yeah, but maybe uncertainty is where we need to be, right?
Right.
Maybe what we just decide is that we go through it together and see what happens.
Exactly.
And that, at the end of the day, honestly, that's what every relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has a guarantee. You know, there's always somebody says something in rom-coms and in a lot of romantic things about, well, I've never had a serious relationship. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That doesn't mean that this one won't be your serious relationship,
Right.
right? You
Exactly.
could We all have to, different people have serious relationships at different times and at
Mm-hmm.
different points in their life, and it's, when you find the right person, then you take a chance with that person.
Yeah.
That's a big part of, I feel like, some of these relationships. And that the person is all of their memories and all of their experiences make them who they are, and that person is worthy of love, and who they are, where they are, all the things that they've gone through, all the things that they've lost, all the mistakes that they've made, that person is worthy of love. And that we have that not only in like the Michael and Book sort of place, but the Stamets and Culber space. We have that in the Saru and
And Tarina. Yeah.
Tarina. My gosh, I'm turning the page.
It's
I went
okay.
2 pages too far away from my notes about them. But they are who they are, and you have to love people for who they are without making a big,
Yeah.
I'm going to change them sort of feeling. And you don't get that from any of these couples where somebody has to be changed in order to be loved.
Right.
They just have to be loved. And
Right.
that is a truly
It's
beautiful thing.
yeah. And I need to meet you where you are.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if if we can't do that, then we don't need to be together. But yeah, exactly. So, oh right, so romance tropes. Yeah, okay, all right.
We
I
love it.
see it. I see it all, and I'm loving it all. And of course, in true fashion, I have my nerdy Easter eggs, and I'm just gonna mention a few of them here.
Okay. All
Um,
right, let's hear it.
because we already know the big one is that this whole season is from TNG, season 6, episode 20. And them going off to different worlds is also kind of like what they did in that episode, which I
Mhm.
love. One of those worlds, as we know, is Trill, and of course we talked a lot about Cobra, but Cobra goes through what they call a Jantara.
Mhm.
And the first time we see that is in DS9, where Jadzia has a Jantara.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay. Yeah.
remember, there were some fun moments in that, but
Yeah.
there were also some not fun moments. One of the fun moments is Quark ends up becoming Audred. I think one of the female ones, one of the female hosts that Jadzia
Mhm.
had for a while, was Dr. Bashir. And he was all, I'm Tarias. And then Odo was Curzon, and Curzon didn't want to go back. That was one
Oh,
of the things
yeah.
with that Shintar. And then, of course, by this time, Jadzia found out that Duran was also one of her past hosts, and Duran was a murderer. So they had,
Oh,
remember, Captain Picard was Duran, and they had to put him in a holding cell during that Jantara.
okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so Jantara is the whole process of where Cobra is inhabited by one of the past hosts for a temporary amount of time. So he's
Right. Okay.
not joined, but he's just inhabited, is the
Mhm.
best thing I could say. In that same episode, they were talking about, yeah, I got a pet. Somebody has a pet Tribble, but the pet Tribble is neutered. Thought that was funny. I was like, how can you have a pet Tribble and not have a million of those pet Tribbles? Yeah,
Yes.
because it's neutered. And also with this is another thing with Locke that we didn't mention, but this is a nerdy Easter egg, is that Locke is a Breen.
Hmm.
And the thing about Breens, and this is kind of a thing that we see it more so in DS9, because in the war, the Breen come into the war in the end. But the Breen have these hood things on, and they never take them off. And here we actually see what the Breen look like under the hood. Those
You're right.
things, remember when they were talking about, we see your face, and why are you showing the ugly face, and all this other kind of stuff that they were saying, like in a couple
Yeah.
of the episodes when they were doing the flashback as to why Locke and Maul are on their own, because the Breen never take their hood things off. And so other races are wondering what the Breen look like under their hoods. Also, that it's really cold on Breen. That's another thing. And the last clue of the progenitor's tech is in the Badlands, and we know the Badlands from DS9 and from Voyager, because the Badlands is where the Maquis would hide, and because it was a place that it had a lot of plasma storms and all this stuff.
Ooh.
And the fact that the last clue is in the Badlands, they had to kind of navigate all of that. And that's also part of the defense of it, right? Because the
Yes.
Badlands was a bad place. In episode 8, they mentioned something about a nucleonic emitter, and that goes back to an episode of TNG where Picard is hit by this beam in this archive. And that's
Hmm.
also the episode where his actual son plays his son on the episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's cool. But that's also, this was another thing. This is not an Easter egg, but this was just another thing that was just really cool that I wanted to mention. Also, in that episode, in the Badlands, there's this library.
Yes.
Remember? That
Yes.
library was cool as crap, wasn't it?
Oh my God.
Oh, that.
Wait, where is that? Where are those notes?
Oh, God. Okay. She has notes. I'm gonna have to wait for these
Tyrell.
notes, but I will say, while she's looking for notes, that library could dismember or kill you. I was like, I have never been to that library. Was like, it was like above and beyond, like a Harry Potter kind of thing. It was like, it was
Oh my
changing.
God.
It was, yeah, it was going through
Oh
some
my
stuff.
God. I love a library.
Oh, it was
One,
great.
love a library. Two, love a librarian. Hyrel, thank
Hyrule was
you.
awesome. That was so
Our
fun.
archivist. Okay.
Yes.
So one of the things, Hyrel, of course, a librarian, archivist, is going to be the person who
Yes.
sees book,
Yes.
um, who sees book and knows what book needs, right? And
Hooray.
gives him the world root, and literally gives him roots, gives him an anchor after his, his feeling
Yes.
of not having a world, not having an anchor. So of course Hyrule does that for him. And then, okay, I love this little bit. Let me see if I can like make it kind of short, because we haven't really talked about Rune at all, which is fine. But so Rune is sort of out of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Rune is like, okay, well, I'll give you this if you, but don't destroy the archive. And then Rune's like, yeah, fine. And then Rune decides, oh no, I'm totally going to destroy the archive. And
Right.
a lot of people around him are like, I don't think you should destroy the
Right.
archive.
You
Like,
should
that
not
seems like
do
a bad
that.
idea.
Yeah.
You know why? Book banning is wrong.
That's
That's why.
it. That is exactly it.
If you
Yes.
want to ban books, you're the villain, guaranteed.
That's
And
it.
so Maul is like, even Maul, this is where we know that Maul is not the villain. This is where we know
Right.
that Maul is not the villain, because Maul sees this and is like, oh, no, no,
No.
no, we're not doing this. So
Yep.
she forms a mutiny, and Rune dies.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, every fiber of my being is like, that's right. That's what happens to book banners.
That's right. Warning to the
Go
book
burn
banners out there.
Don't you dare go burning books, because Maul is coming for you.
Right? That's it. That
He
is
has
it.
her
I
issues.
mean, oh, if you,
Please,
yeah, if you can't take
Maul.
anything away from Star Trek, that's the thing. If that's the one thing you take away from it, that is the
Mm-hmm.
thing. I mean,
Do not burn a book.
oh
Yeah.
gosh.
So we've got that going for us now. I mean, the flip side of that little conversation is, of course, that the great power goes into the black hole, but that it's not destroyed.
Right.
It's
It's
just
not.
it's just hiding,
Right.
and it's there
Exactly.
for someone who needs it. So
Right, right. That's it. But
we have that
yeah,
going for us.
I mean that library was everything. I'm like, oh
Okay.
yeah, everything. But yeah,
Okay.
but so
Okay, so I have two other like last like just final thoughts here.
yeah,
One is about Saru, and if we remember Saru in the first season, he's a pretty passive guy. He's very smart, but he's not a real like go getter, you know,
yeah,
charge forward kind of
he's not.
guy. And here we have him in episode 10. I wrote it down. Look, I have so many notes and I color coded them. Aren't you proud of me?
I am very
So,
proud. And I bet you wrote down the
okay, what
same
does he
thing
say?
I did.
He says, how does he convince Tahal, right, to stay away? He says, look into my eyes and tell me if there is a flicker of doubt. And you're like,
Right? Whoa! Yeah.
dude,
And
you are
right,
full on bluffing your ass off. Sorry,
right.
you are full on bluffing. You have nothing. You got nothing. And it's like,
Exactly.
see if there is a flicker of doubt. And you're like,
Whoa. Exactly. And right after that, I wrote Saru is strong. And Saru is not playing with you.
talk about characters growing and changing
Yeah.
over the course of
I
the
mean,
series,
he's got
because
a total arc.
season 1 Saru
Not
could never.
not by any
But
means.
I love that he does that, and then he sort of like has almost like a little giggle with her. You're just like, those two are so cute.
They are. They are totally cute.
They're
I
just so
love
cute.
them.
Okay, and then my one other quote was, where is that? Is he says Culber. So Culber is like in the shuttle thing with Book, and they're trying to figure out about the tracking beam, and they can't allow the portal to, like, the portal's gonna fall into the black hole. Don't You got to save
Yes.
the portal and save
Yep.
Michael and save
Yeah.
Maul and save everything. And so Book is like, well, what about this? What about this? And and he goes, I'm a doctor, not a physicist.
Right? Exactly. I don't know this.
I love that they pulled that line from the original series. So
Exactly. That
yeah,
is McCoy's line. That is Dr.
that's
McCoy's line. I'm a doctor, not a whatever. And he would say a
yes,
bunch of different things. I know, I love that
yeah.
too. And see,
So
that's the thing. It's like I think there's some other things. That's one thing that, it did stand out. I think there's some other little Easter eggs in here from TOS that just went
mhm.
like this for me. But yeah, there are several, now that I'm thinking about it, there are several things in that last episode. And was that the last or was that the next to last? I think that was episode 9.
It might have been 9.
Yeah.
It might have been 9. I
The,
couldn't remember. It kind of
yeah.
flows together about what
Yeah.
happened
So
from 9
so those
and
at
10.
the 9 and the 10 episode, that was those episodes, they had kind of the most like little Easter egg kind of takeaways from it, which I
Yeah.
noticed that a lot of these newer series, they kind of do that in the last episodes. They kind of load up on the
Yeah.
Easter eggs, which is so cool. It makes us Trekkies feel like, okay, you see us there. It's not just
Yeah.
about giving us a new and different story. It's also about giving us a little bit of a sprinkling of,
I
the
feel like
other
it is
ones.
a lot of times fan service a lot of times gets a bad rap, like, oh, it's just a fan service. No, it is fan service. I want to feel like an insider. But
Yes.
I think this is fan service done extremely well,
Yes.
because if you have never seen TNG or TOS, if you've never seen those, this whole series stands alone.
Yeah.
Right? You can start with season 1, episode 1, and watch a really fantastic sci-fi television show.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's Star Trek is cool. Maybe for some people, you got to know a little bit of information about the Federation, but it's kind of explained, so don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
Yeah.
So this is a great series for people that are not Trekkies to be able to come into and be a part of the world and fall in love with some characters and get something that's a really fantastic show, like a standalone. But for any of us that have these memories, that remember, that have seen the other series and the other shows, oh, it's the Easter eggs that just go, "Yes, I love it, I love it, I love it. Did you hear what they said?"
Yes.
Yes. So
Exactly. Exactly. But since you're saying that,
mhm.
you're kind of giving a good review here. So what is your rating on this? From 1 star, we didn't like it, to 5 stars, we think it's amazing.
A five-star show. I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like this
Mhm.
show, like I said, I feel like it was so layered and they took it in so many different directions, and while keeping the heart of the show consistent and being able to explore things in so many ways. Every season has like a whole different adventure that's happening, but they maintain this ability to have that the core team as growing and learning, and there's a beauty in that. So
Yeah.
I'm at 5-star on this one.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to agree with you. 5 star on the whole series. I'm also going to say that season 1 to me and season 5, if we're rating just the seasons, season 1 and season 5 definitely get the higher ratings, right? They get the
Oh,
definite five
hmm,
stars.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I don't want to say they're kind of like bookends, but they're almost like bookends a little bit.
I think bookends is a good way to put it. Yeah.
You know?
They did a lot of things very differently in this series,
Yeah.
and I just feel like it paid off. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, it works as just kind of a whole, it kind of has that feel of like the first, I guess that's the Infinity Saga of Marvel. You can tell somebody planned this out,
Mhm.
right? You can tell it wasn't showrunners who, they got a pilot and a few other episodes and they have no idea where to go because they don't
Mhm.
know if they're going to get picked up or whatever.
Yeah.
You could tell this was definitely
Mhm.
planned out, at least to a certain extent. But if it wasn't, they had me fooled. But I agree as far as this show, you don't have to be a Trekkie to appreciate it. I know there's also some authors and writers who listen to the podcast, and if you want
Mhm.
a good character arc study, this is
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate, especially for my women's fiction writers out there who the emotional journey is what a women's fiction book is all about, or relationship fiction, however you want, whatever you want to call it. Women's fiction is a
Mhm.
problematic title, but that is this is it. This is a character study right here. This
Mhm.
is a
Mhm.
study of character arcs, relationship fiction, how to do that whole I'm going from
Mhm.
one place to another place, and
Mhm.
like we said, you know, Saru is probably the only one that actually made a physical change, but what he gained and everything else was emotional
Mhm.
and mental and how he saw himself. But this is it, right? This is
Mhm.
that character study. And so for writers, this is a good one to
Yeah.
watch and to have in your arsenal. For Trekkies, this, is a good one to also watch because you do get a little bit of that fan service, especially in the
Yeah.
seasons that happen after they
Mhm.
go into the future. But, another thing, and I think we might have mentioned this the last time we talked about Star Trek Discovery, for a universe, Star Trek universe, the representation and what they did, even in TOS with the first interracial
Mhm.
kiss on
Mhm.
TV, they
Mhm.
already pushed the representation envelope. And having women in a sci-fi,
Mhm.
they already pushed the envelope. But here with Discovery, they really did representation.
Oh
Like
my gosh, they
it's
really did.
it's almost like with each new series, except for maybe Picard, which is a love, which is a love of
That's a love letter.
Picard. That's
That's a
just a
love letter.
love letter. That's a TNG in its own bubble. But with each new series, we get a more progressive and
Mhm.
more representation.
Yeah.
We have a non-binary character, we
Mhm.
have a gay marriage, we have a black woman female captain, you
Heck
know
yeah.
um
Mhm.
and we have a lot of relationships that go on here and a lot of different representation
Mhm.
even from a sci-fi perspective. It's a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's very much appreciated, especially for this
Mhm.
nerdy black woman here.
We have on the bridge, the folks that are on the bridge also very diverse group.
Yes.
And and playing different kinds of roles,
Yes.
right? In terms of, we've had a lot of women communicators, and the communicator role is a little bit different. The engineering role, who are the people that are
Mm-hmm.
leading engineering, right?
Exactly.
We have
Yeah.
we have a white man who's gay as the scientist element of it, and then a lot of the operational engineering is led by a large woman,
Right.
and that's also something that we haven't seen before. She's tall, she's not very thin, so having that type of body representation on board as well. And then we have, I think Michael, well, I guess we'll see how other series end, but I think Michael might be the only captain who falls in love and gets married, because
Right.
definitely not, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
not
And
Janeway, not Picard, and definitely not Kirk, right? They all stay single.
mm-hmm.
And we find out that not only does she fall in love and get married, but she becomes an admiral too.
You know,
Turns
the
out,
only one that
you
actually, yes, and the only one that actually does, but doesn't, is Captain Cisco. And he gets married, against the prophet's wishes. The prophets
Mhm.
did not want him to get married to Captain Yates.
Okay.
But they did get married at the very end. But of course, as we know with DS9, they don't end up together. They were supposed to be together on Bajor. Remember, he had that little house. He had that little
Mhm.
model of a house that he wanted to build. He had gotten some acres of land, but they end up not being together. And
Mhm.
so you're right. She is the only one that's gotten married, has a family, and
Mhm.
is admiral.
And is an admiral.
I'm like,
So,
yes to all of
yeah.
this, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, 5 stars from both of us on this series. At some point,
Mhm.
yes, we may talk about season 4, but I think we really pretty much covered it right
We
here.
covered it.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of stuff here.
And there's a lot more Star Trek to actually talk about because we have not even started on Star Trek Strange New Worlds,
Yes!
which,
Love Strange New Worlds.
you know, it's already, at this recording, it's already in its 3rd season, I believe. Or is it about to go to its 4th season? Or is it about to go to its 3rd season? One or the other. It's
Yeah.
definitely in its 3rd season. And then a month after we record this, we're recording this in December. So in January, there will be a movie on Paramount Plus. So don't hang up your Paramount Plus subscriptions just yet, because there will be a movie called Section 31, which
Mhm.
is starring Michelle Yeoh, which she was Captain Georgiou on Discovery. And I can't wait to see that one.
I saw that, like, teaser, not even like a trailer. I just saw a teaser and I was like, I love me some Michelle Yeoh. Bring it, bring it, bring
Yes.
it on. I cannot wait.
I
Cannot wait to hear more about Michelle Yeoh and what is I don't care. I don't know what she's doing. I have no idea. I know she was in Discovery, so I know it's sort of a continuation of that character or some storyline with that character. It doesn't matter
yes.
because you know what? She's gonna kill it.
Yeah,
She's
she
gonna a
is.
thousand
She
percent
is.
kill it. So I can't wait to see what happens there
She's
with
sure.
that one. And maybe this isn't the right like venue for it, but I'm just gonna point out that Below Decks is very charming. And
Oh
so
yes, yes, it is. It is. Yeah, this is Star Trek. It's a good view. It's a good venue for it.
you know, it pulled the Star Trek universe into a whole different tone,
Yeah.
totally different way of thinking about it.
Yes.
And it's very charming and I enjoy it quite a bit. So
And I believe as of this recording, that one is in its last season, I believe.
potentially, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So yes, we have lots more Star Trek to talk about here. So y'all have to stick with us. Make sure you are subscribed so that you can hear about all this Star Trek. And Jen, you know you're gonna
Mhm.
have to come back.
You know I will, babe. You know I will.
Oh, thank
You
you
know,
so much.
we can talk about so many different things. We can talk about so many different things. So, yeah,
Oh
I'm
yes.
here.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, she's here for our romance and she's also here for our nerdy. And we love that about you, Jen. So thank you for coming on.
Aw.
Hi. Want to get show notes from this and future episodes in your inbox? Then subscribe to Nerdy Romantics newsletter at nerdyromanticspodcast.com/subscribe. Nerdy Romantics newsletter not only has show notes, but nerdy and romantic recs and sneak peeks and exclusives of my spicy nerdy romances and love stories. I love talking sci-fi, superheroes, fantasy, and romance books, movies, and shows with my friends. So share this podcast with your nerdy romantic friends. Thanks for listening and for watching.